There. Yo, Carding, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sige. I'll start live streaming tapos we'll start in 1 minute. Salamat.
All right.
There. Hi. Good evening. Magandang gabi, magandang umaga, magandang tanghali sa inyong lahat. This is Bob Reyes of the Mozilla Philippines community. Welcome to our November edition of our online meetup. Welcome to those who are inside our Zoom meeting room and to those who are tuning in via the Facebook live. So we have an exciting topic to discuss tonight. We have an awesome guest, but before we introduce him, so just our usual spiel. So for those who do not know what Mozilla is, welcome. This is the Mozilla Philippines community. Just a little bit of history. We started a long time ago with Netscape, that web browser. If you will be heading to our YouTube channel, there's an explainer about browser wars. It's something, especially the kids of these days, it's something that you should watch and learn how things were before before the web that we know today. We operate as a global nonprofit, and as a nonprofit organization, we have a manifesto. We believe that we should be leading a pledge for a healthy internet. And what do we mean by that? We are committed as an organization to have an internet that includes all the peoples of the earth. We are also committed to an internet that promotes civil discourse, human dignity, and individual expression. We are also committed to an internet that elevates critical thinking, reasoned argument, shared knowledge, and verifiable facts. And lastly, we are committed to an internet that catalyzes collaboration among diverse communities. With, like here in the Philippines, we have so many tech communities, and we work together hand in hand to give everyone the best of what we can offer. Here in the Philippines, we started our operations in 2009. And at current, we have 4 Mozilla reps, including myself. We have 2 regional coordinators, one in Visayas and one in Mindanao. And we have 8 core members comprising of the leadership. What's keeping us busy? We basically localize Firefox into Tagalog, Cebuano, and Hiligaynon. At present, we already had launched the Firefox in Tagalog. So if you want to try it out, just go to firefox.com, click on the different languages, and download a copy for yourself. It will run with the English version of Firefox. We are also advocating free and open source software, online security, and privacy through means of social media, online events, participating in lawmaking procedures, and many more. We are launching very soon, hopefully by January, our learning management system. that will have contents to onboard our volunteers on localization, privacy, web development, and Rust programming. We are best known for our web browser, Firefox. So when we talk about Firefox, we are talking about the Firefox family of products that would include the browser and Firefox Monitor, among many things. Firefox is also available on mobile, be it on Android or iOS. So you better check it out. If you haven't tried it yet, you can also sync your mobile device, the Firefox on your mobile device with your desktop and vice versa. So the current version of Firefox is Firefox version 107. So if you will notice, it's in Tagalog. So this is the Tagalog version. We are working on the Cebuano and on the Hiligaynon versions. Hopefully, you can help us finish it in due time. So for tonight, we have a very special guest by the person of Carding, or Mr. Richard Dil Ilagan. So he's a regular with many of our online meetups. And for tonight, Carding will be giving us a talk on the best practices for WordPress sites on Amazon Web Services. So, Carding, kamusta? Are you there?
Yes, Bob. Kumusta ka?
Mabuti naman. Yes. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you then.
Okay. So, sige, let's get the ball rolling. So, the virtual floor is yours.
All right. Sige. Start ko lang tong screen share ko. Parati ko nakakalimutan yung screen share ko eh. So, unahin ko na siya ngayon.
Yeah.
Siguraduhin ko lang na tapos tayo.
Pagkasanay ka na masyado, bisa nakakalimutan mong...
Oo nga eh.
With all the
game
that you see on your screen.
I know, di ba? Okay. So, sana nakikita niyo na yung screen ko. So,
yep.
yes. All right. Good. So, hello everybody. Kamusta? So, ang pag-usapan natin ngayon ay best practices for WordPress on AWS. So, sabi nga ni Bob, ako si Carding. Most people call me Carding. Pero my full name is Richard Ninilagan. I'm pretty sure there's a really good chance that some of you would have seen me in other events na rin, especially with the Community Ignite series, for example. The AWS user groups and so on and so on. I'm currently a prototyping architect for ASEAN sa Amazon Web Services mismo. So as a prototyping architect, ang ginagawa namin is pretty much a lot of technology. So pretty much ang responsibility ko is to learn about technology. Kada project na ginagawa ko, I pretty much learn something new. So I try to pay it forward by sharing whatever I know sa mga lugar na katulad dito, like events na to. So it's really my pleasure to be able to be given the opportunity to talk. So a bit of a backgrounder. I'm particularly software engineer. So prototyping architect ako for AWS, pero ang background ko talaga is programming. I'm a builder through and through. So I've been programming, building systems, firmware, backends, front ends, mobile apps, APIs, what have you. I've been building for 16.5 years, almost 17 na. Tanda ko na, wow. I've been with AWS for 4.5, almost 5 years na. And like I said, I specialize in web apps, also containers and serverless technologies. So ang pinaka-expertise ko talaga is web development. So JavaScript, TypeScript, CSS, that's really where I enjoy building stuff. Recently, I've been really diving into Rust. Isa yung mga napapagkasunduan namin ni Bob talaga. Rust is, I find, a very nice language to get into. So if you haven't tried it, and you're looking to try something, I really recommend trying Rust. On my spare time, I play a lot of Dota. Tapos right now, I'm busying myself with building an open source fight stick para ma-practice ko yung IoT ko at electronics, right? So that's kind of like the backgrounder para sa akin. Today, what we're going to be talking about is, like I said, WordPress. Best practices for WordPress, right? I always enjoy talking about WordPress, particularly dahil nung nagsisimula din lang akong, maging professional programming, nag-aaral ako mag-program talaga. I can say na bread and butter ko dati yung WordPress. Like karamihan ng sidelines ko, yung buhay sa akin, quote unquote, was WordPress development. So I built a lot of WordPress sites before. I built a lot of WordPress plugins, themes, and so on and so forth. Yung expertise ko siguro in web dev, like yung enjoyment I get from building web apps, a lot of that I attribute to having built a lot of WordPress before. Pero now the thing is, with something like a topic like ano ang best practices ng WordPress ba? If you're starting on WordPress, and if you haven't tried WordPress, it's a pretty nifty platform. It's a really, really nice platform. It's not just for blogs, right? Most people start with blogs, pero it's really a content management platform through and through, and it's a really good one at that. So if you haven't tried it, it's very easy to get into. Pero if we're going to be talking about like best practices on WordPress, what are the things we have to take note of to do good when working with WordPress? Malawak talaga siya. It's a huge platform. There's so many things you can do with it, and we pretty much have 30 minutes, 45 minutes to talk about it. So what I normally do, even with my customers and other communities sa AWS, whenever I use WordPress a lot to try to explain a lot of architecture. Like parang lalo na sa mga tao na nagsisimula pa lang with how do you design software systems? How do you make it, resilient, scalable, cost-effective? All of those well-architected principles, for example. How do you do that? I always use WordPress. Almost always. I always use WordPress as an example. So I thought of doing that with this session na lang. So like I said, kasi ang dami natin pwedeng pag-usapan eh. So in this session, what we're going to be talking about is ano yung mga architectural decisions? What are the best practices in terms of architecture you can do when you build a WordPress site? And I tried to make it so na yung mga ipapakita ko sa inyo ngayon are generic enough that it doesn't apply to just WordPress. You can bring it to most any platform. Like ano man yung binibuild mo, you can probably use the same kind of knowledge and context and ideas, right? So hopefully you find it very, very useful. Yeah. Really, if you haven't tried WordPress, I suggest check it out. So WordPress.com, the official site, right? Or WordPress.com, WordPress.org. On AWS, I have to say that the easiest way to get started with WordPress would probably be the Lightsail service, Amazon Lightsail. So if you haven't, a lot of people haven't heard of Lightsail. It's a very easy kind of service to get started on the cloud, to be honest, if you were to ask me. So you can go to Amazon Lightsail. It's part of the free tier as well. So actually, taka lang. Let me see if I can show you Lightsail now. I'm working on a different screen. So I'm just logging into my AWS account. So ang ginawa ko na is on my own AWS account, I started a WordPress site na on Lightsail. So if you haven't seen the AWS console before, ito yung AWS console pretty much. You can go to any AWS service up here, search for it. So we can go to Lightsail like that. Tapos ito yung Amazon Lightsail. Right, so I've already started a WordPress site there. Pero if you want to create your own WordPress site or any site that Lightsail supports, for example, you can just create an instance like this. Tapos you can pick one of several pre-made blueprints, right? So I've already created the WordPress site. So we'll start with this one. So if you want to actually visit that, ito yung IP address niya, right here. Anybody watching right now can visit the site, and you should see this, right? So it's a pretty standard WordPress site. I don't know if oh, there we go. So up din yung admin niya, right? So it's a working WordPress, right? So ngayon, this is what we call in terms of just jumping right into it, no? Ang WordPress that you get, the WordPress installation you get on Lightsail is something we call a monolithic deployment. So kumbaga, in one machine, so ito yung one machine ito, right? Hopefully that's clear. You have your WordPress inside, so yung PHP that runs WordPress, yung web server, yung Apache web server inside. And then you have a database inside. I think for Lightsail, what runs is a MariaDB, right? And then you have your storage that's shared sila between two. So you can kind of think of it like, if you start a WordPress on Lightsail, you get one computer. As inside that computer runs two things. One is the WordPress, and the other is your database. Because those are the two things that WordPress needs to run. You need the website, right? And then you need the database, right? Only two things. Kaya nga ginagamit ko to as an example because it's very, very easy, right? Only two things. And this is a monolithic deployment. Monolithic kasi magkasama sila in just one computer. Ngayon, given for example, if a user visits this WordPress site, kasi katulad ng ginawa ko, nagbukas ako ng Firefox, pinuntahan ko yung website, di ba? To service my request, para ma-display yung page, ma-query yung database, mabigay lahat ng content, yung post, yung images, right? Kailangan tumakbo ng server, kailangan niya mag-isip, right? So ngayon, mangyayari, gagamit siya ng konting resources, gagamit siya ng konting CPU, gagamit siya ng konting memory, which is good, di ba? Hopefully everybody knows that. Ngayon, ang problema mo with the monolithic deployment is, paano kung biglang dumami yung mga tao? Right? Gano'ng karaming tao, gano'ng karaming requests per second, gano'ng karaming concurrent users ang kayang isupport ng WordPress deployment mo? That's a very, very critical question, not just for WordPress or any, it's a very, very critical question you have to ask on any system. Sa current mong deployment, how much traffic can it service safely? Diba? Nang hindi siya nag-slow down, hindi siya nagka-crash, or whatsoever. So for example, sabihin natin na yung ginawa ko pa lang na WordPress site sa Lightsail, kaya pag may 5 tao na pumunta sa kanya at the same time, sobra-sobra na yung CPU mo. Sabihin natin, kunwari lang, di ba? Ano ang mga options mo? What are the things you can do to help your WordPress site? Kasi ang mangyayari dito is kulang na yung resources mo eh. So babagal na yung site eh. So what can you do? Diba? One of the things you can do is something called vertical scaling. Vertical, pataas. So ang ginagawa mo when you say vertical scaling is yung makina or yung host where your software runs, your software system runs, papadamihin mo lang yung resources niya. Kaya siya vertical kasi pinapakapal mo eh. Like pinapalaki mo siya, right? Pinapatangkad mo siya. So instead na 2 CPU, 8 gigabytes of memory, pwede mong gawing doble. 4 CPU, 16 gigabytes of memory. Di ba? Easy peasy. Kakayanin na niyo yung load kanina ng 5 users. Di ba? Ang problema mo with this, pag vertical scaling, is kailangan mong patayin mo yun, kailangan mo patayin yung original mo machine. 'Di ba? Kasi papalitan mo siya. Meron kang kaninang 2 CPU, kailangan mo siyang palitan ng bagong computer na mas makapal. Ito na, ikakabit mo na, i-install mo na lahat. Ililipat mo lahat ng tao doon sa kabila, 'di ba? So kailangan mong patayin yung 2 CPU mo kanina. So malamang meron kang downtime, which isn't good kasi hindi mo alam gaano katagal yung downtime na 'yan, 'di ba? Another option would be something horizontal naman. So instead na pataas, palapad tayo. Papadamihin natin yung computers. Imbis na papakapalin natin imbis na papalakasin natin yung computer, yung host natin, papadamihin natin siya. Instead na 1 piraso na lang, 2 pirasong computer na lang, o 3, o 4, o 10, o 100, di ba? Ilan man yung kailangan natin para ma-service natin yung load, right? So yan yung horizontal scaling. Okay? So imbes na meron kang isang makapal na 4 CPU, gamit ka na lang ng dalawang TIG 2 CPU. This is actually better most of the time than a vertical scaling. Kasi pag horizontal scaling ka, hindi mo kailangan patayin yung original mong machine. Dadagdagan mo na lang siya. Or dadagdagan mo na dadagdagan. Pero yung original mong makina, hindi naman namamatay. So pwede kang tuloy-tuloy na nagbibigay lang ng requests. Right? Hindi ka nagkakaproblema. Ngayon, ang problema mo ngayon sa horizontal scaling is, napapansin mo, pag ginagawa natin, nagpapadami tayo ng computer. So, kumari itong sa diagram ko ngayon, dalawa na sila. Di ba? Dalawa na yung WordPress server ko. Dalawa na rin yung database ko. Dalawa na rin yung storage ko. So, ibig sabihin, lahat ng, kung ano man yung laman, so, kumbaga, kung ano man yung laman ng database ko nung yung database ko nung simula, kailangan kopyahin ko rin dito. Diba? So, dumodoble. Paano pa kung 3? Paano pa kung 4? Paano kung 10 yan? Paano kung 100 yan? Ibig sabihin, may 100 copies ako nung database ko. Diba? Hindi yun, it's not very efficient if you think about it. Diba? So, to drive that point further, yung pinakita ko sa inyong machine kanina ng WordPress, pinatakbuhan ko siya ng load test. As in, pinadalhan ko siya ng sandamakmak na virtual users all at the same time. So makikita mo yung makikita mo, biglang tumataas yung usage ng computer, nahihirapan siya. Diba? Yung graph din, yung mismong time na pinadalhan ko siya kanina, right before this session, pinadalhan ko siya kanina ng load test. Makikita mo na tumaas. Ang problema dito is, nakikita mo na tumaas yung gamit mo sa computer, gamit mo sa host, o gamit mo sa server. Pero hindi mo alam saan siya nahihirapan. Nahihirapan ba siya doon sa WordPress? O nahihirapan ba siya doon sa database? Diba? Bumabagal ba siya dahil doon sa maraming gumagamit ng WordPress? O maraming nag-query sa database? You don't know. You can't tell. And that's very important. Especially if kung nagde-DevOps ka o nagpapatakbo ka ng kung ano mga application and you're not just programming. That's very important information to know. Kung bumabagal yung computer mo, hindi sapat na alam mo bumabagal yung computer mo. Kailangan alam mo kung bakit. Saan siya bumabagal? Saan siya nadadapa? Saan siya nagkakamali? Right? So you have to find out. That's all part of debugging. And essentially analytics and telemetry ng makina, right? So you have to know, right? All in all, hindi tapat yung ganan, right? So yung pinakita ko sa inyo na monolithic deployment, it will work for it will work as an easy kind of entrance. It's an entry point to starting WordPress. It will work for, for a good while. Pero oras na dumami na yung mga nagbabasa ng blog mo o nagbe-visit ng website mo, it will very quickly fail. And dahil doon, it will cost you a lot of money if you try to fix it in that sense, right? So ang very first tip ko with any software system, not just WordPress, right, is you separate all of your logical components. Like I said, so WordPress, may dalawa lang naman eh. Essentially dalawa, maybe 3. Pero let's talk about the 2 first. Meron kang WordPress na server and meron kang database. Right? Those are your 2 logical components. So ideally, in a WordPress system, tig-isa sila ng makina. Meron kang isang makina that runs just WordPress. Meron kang isang makina that runs just the database. Right? It makes it easy to know kung saan bumabagal kasi dalawa na yung makina mo eh. So now there's two copies of that graph you will see now. Kung nararamdaman mo na bumabagal yung buo mong system, it's very quickly you can very quickly see saan exacto siya bumabagal. Sa makina ba ng WordPress, sa makina ng database, and then you can drill down further. Di ba? If for example, nakita mo na nahihirapan siya doon sa WordPress, right? It's very easy then at this point to It's very easy na paramihin na sila. Di ba? So parang ang mangyayari dyan is, kung nakikita mo na yung WordPress system mo is nahihirapan na, pwede mo padamihin yung makina ng WordPress mo. Yung database, you can leave untouched. Right? Let me try to show you that a bit, no? So dapat nakikita niyo yung terminal ko. So let me just spend a few minutes to try to illustrate that a bit more visually, di ba? So pupunta ako sa isang machine ngayon. This is a remote machine. I'm gonna run a bit of WordPress. So meron akong prepare ng a few stacks. Saan nga ba to? So meron akong standard dito. So pakita ko sa inyo. So I'm using containers here, pero you don't have to use containers at all if you're doing WordPress. Ginagawa ko lang na containers para madali yung pakita sa inyo. So just to show you what I'm doing, meron akong pinatakbong dalawang containers. Hiniwalay ko na yung WordPress na server. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Right? Yan. Meron akong WordPress na server tsaka yung WordPress na database. Hiwalay na sila. Ngayon, kung titingnan ko yung stats nilang dalawa, madaling makita na, ito yung WordPress na core, yung CPU niya, ito, yung ginagamit yung memory yon, di ba? Let me just do that again. Ito na lang. Right? So kita mo yung CPU na bawat isa, kita mo yung memory gamit ng bawat isa, and so on and so forth. So kita mo hiwalay na hiwalay. Patakbuhin natin yung same na load test na ginawa ko kanina. So hopefully this works. No? Yan, so nakikita mo sa taas, tumataas din yung CPU usage ng core. Tumataas din yung sa database, pero not as fast as yung pagtaas ng core. Di ba? So, ang gusto ko ipakita dito is, even though ibalik natin doon sa idea na magkasama silang dalawa in one machine, di ba? Kung magkasama sila in one machine, hindi mo malalaman na yung WordPress yung mas mabilis mag-bottleneck. Yung mas mabilis mas mabilis mag-choke. Right? Alam mong bumabagal yung machine, pero you don't know na si WordPress yun. Hindi mo alam na si WordPress yung database is just, chugging along okay. So that's the reason why you want to split them. Nakita mo agad sino yung nahihirapan, sino yung okay lang, right? Ngayon, ang problema mo ngayon dito is that kung pwede mo padamihin yung mga server mo ngayon, para sa tao na nag-visit na ng website mo, paano mo masasabi kung sinong WordPress yung tatamaan niya? Kung meron ka ng 3 WordPress machines, for example, sabi natin nahihirapan na so pinadami mo like we were talking about earlier, di ba? Paano mo masasabi kung sino yung tatamaan niyang WordPress? Or how do you control that? So yung tip 2 is you want to balance your incoming load. So normally, that's what you use a load balancer for. So lalagyan mo ng load balancer sa harapan ng mga WordPress servers mo. Right? So the idea behind that is, dahil meron ka ng load balancer sa harap, and if you configure it correctly, hindi mo na kailangan isipin kung ilan yung WordPress na nasa likod. Yung mga WordPress sites na nasa likod, ito mga to. Right? It can be just 1, it can be 5, it can be 10,000 kung kaya ng platform mo. Pero your load balancer will just keep on distributing all incoming requests dun sa lahat ng available servers. So let me show you that then. So baba ko lang to. Ito yung meron din akong hinanda na load balance din. Right? So just to show you, ito naman yung laman ng load balance load balance WordPress ko. Meron akong yung same na core tsaka database, pero meron akong load balancer din sa harap. So ang itsura niyan is load balancer to a WordPress to a database. Parang ganyan siya. So pag merong tao na mag-visit ng site ko, dito siya pupunta sa load balancer. Tapos yung load balancer niya magbibigay. Right? So ang gagawin natin, same thing. Papakita ko sa inyo anong nangyayari doon sa system pag binagsakan natin siya ng sandamakmak na users. So makikita mo na yung load balancing WordPress score, ayun, tumataas na naman, di ba? 167, 170, ganyan. I-ano natin, paramihin natin siya. So, ang gagawin ko ngayon, gagawin kong 3 yung WordPress score. Right? Oops, sorry. There we go. So meron na akong 3 na WordPress scores. See? So may 3 na akong WordPress server. So ang itsura niyan, if you're having trouble imagining it, ganun pa rin, load balancer, it goes into 3 WordPress, right? Lahat ito mga WordPress. Then lahat yan goes into just 1 na database. Right? So ngayon, anytime na may pumapasok na request mula dito, binabalance dinidistribute ni load balancer among those 3. Parang I think on a round robin thing. So dapat nag-share sila ng load, right? So let's try that again. Yung load test. So ayan, makikita nyo na yung WordPress score natin hindi na nasasakal. Na sila, like parang they're sharing equally dun sa load. So pantay-pantay sila na 50%, 60%, right? And then pag ganito yung sistema mo with this amount of load, and then your WordPress site will be A-okay. Hindi siya mahirapan kasi niya, right? Nasa service naman niya ng tama. So babauli natin, right? So that's what a load balancer is for. Pero ngayon, ito na yung next mong concern. O sige, meron na akong load balancer, dumadami na yung mga WordPress servers ko, meron na akong database sa likod na nag-iisa, nag-share silang lahat, di ba? Ilang WordPress servers ang kailangan ko? Right? So, ilang WordPress, katulad ng ginawa ko kanina, binigyan ko siya ng 3. E nagkataon, alam ko lang kasi kailangan ko ng 3, di ba? Pero in reality, ang dami ng servers directly depends on gaano karami yung gumagamit ng site, ng system, di ba? So ibig sabihin, at different times of the day, of the week, of the month, pwedeng iba-iba rin yung dami ng WordPress servers na kailangan mo. Di ba? Kasi siguro mas marami yung kailangan mong WordPress server during the day, kung kailan gising yung mga tao, as opposed to pagtulog sila after midnight, for example. Malamang wala namang bumibisit masyado pag ganun. Di ba? Maraming mga ganong klaseng nuances. So, ilang servers ang kailangan mo? In reality, you don't have to think about that. Kasi maraming ways to be able to automatically scale kung ilan yung WordPress servers na gagamitin mo. Or on any system, ilang servers, ilang virtual machines, ilang hosts ang kailangan mo. You can pretty much always automatically scale. Ilan yung mga yon, right? So for example, I think I can show you sa AWS. I think bukas pa naman yung AWS ko, right? If I show you sa AWS, let's say, babalik ako na sa console, right? So if I was running containers, for example, yung pinapakita ko sa inyong WordPress ngayon is containers. So let's go to a container service. Katulad nito. If I was creating, like magpapatakbo ako ng containers, one of my options should always be scaling, automatically scaling. So what I can do is, for example, pwede ko sabihin na, yung WordPress server ko, yung mga containers that run my WordPress server, gusto ko parating may at least isa. O minsan nga at least 2. Up to you, right? maximum mo, sabihin natin 50. Wag, para hindi naman siya ma-excite masyado. Pero baguhin mo kung ilan yung servers based on some policy. Like for example, CPU utilization or memory utilization. Pwede mo sabihin na ang gusto kong target is around, parang ang aking sweet spot, dapat bawat container 70 or 80% ang CPU utilization. Otherwise, a-adjust na ni AWS para sa iyo. So, pag nakikita niya na parang ganito, nahihirapan siya, papadamihin niya. Pag nakikita niya na ganito, na mababa na yung mga numbers mo, babawasan niya para sa iyo automatically. So, hindi mo na kailangan isipin ilan yung servers, kasi sila yung platform na mag-iisip para sa iyo. Ang kailangan mo lang sabihin is ano yung kailangan kong bantayan, ano yung kailangan kong target, right? Not only does this save you time, but it also helps you recover from disaster. And I think that's more important, to be honest. Kasi pag sinabi mo sa kanya na, uy, kailangan ko ng one server lang, kahit sabihin mo lang, one server lang, kailangan ko ng one server, kailangan ko ng one WordPress server. If at any point, yung one WordPress server na yon dies, it crashes, nagka-error or something, automatically makikita yon nung service ng AWS na gusto mo ng one pero you only have zero kasi hindi counted yung nag-crash . So automatically, papalitan niya para sa iyo. You've automatically recovered from disaster. You've automatically recovered from a crash. So ganun din yun. So even if you don't need to automatically scale from 1 to 10,000 servers, for example, you can always just set auto-scale. Auto-scale ka lang. Kailangan ko parati ng isa. Kailangan ko parati 24/7, dalawa. It will help you recover from disasters when they happen. And they will happen. Kasi it's a programming, it's a software, it's an IT fact of life. It will happen. Failures will happen. So at the very least, use auto-scaling to make sure you recover from disasters as well, even if you don't use it to change the number, right? Some smaller things na gusto ko lang i-highlight, especially with something like WordPress. Ang problema, isa sa mga malalaking problema with WordPress, maliban nun sa dumadami yung mga server na ganito, is yung storage ni WordPress, every time dumadami yung server na ganito, kinokopya pa rin. Right? So if you have, like for example, 3 WordPress servers, pag ginagamit ko yung blog and I write a post and kumari nag-upload ako ng file, yung file na yun has to be somewhere na available to all 3 of my servers. Diba? On a standard WordPress installation kasi, yung storage na yun only uses the storage of the machine where WordPress is running, which is not very good. Kasi ibig sabihin, pag dumami yung mga WordPress mo, you have to always keep track of sinong server na yung nakopya na yung mga tamang files of all your uploads and so on and so forth. That's not something you want to do. So specifically for WordPress, you want to use something shared storage. So ideally, an elastic storage. Yung sabihin ng elastic means na dumadami yung you essentially have virtually infinite space. Kumbaga dumadami lang yung space, padami lang yung space as much as you can use it, right? Tapos the storage has to be shared across all of the servers. So whether you have 3 WordPress servers or 1 or 10 or 50, dapat lahat sila gumagamit ng same storage. Para pag may user na mag-visit ng site, tapos nagkataon, tinamaan niya itong server na to. Pag nag-upload siya ng file dito sa server na to, ilalagay niya dyan, pero accessible yan sa lahat ng iba pang servers because it's shared. Diba? So you don't have to copy files around. I think it's a very WordPress specific it's a very WordPress specific problem. Pero it's also a watch out for a lot of different systems. So WordPress, it's very, very pronounced. Mababangga mo yan once you try to scale. And lastly, just to keep your site and installation that much faster, you will want to look into caching solutions. And this isn't this isn't specific to just WordPress. Pretty much any system can benefit from some form of caching. For example, a very common operation in applications and systems is a database query, di ba? Or an API call, right? So may mga most database queries can be cached. Kasi pag tinanong ko yung database, select star from this table where, foo equals bar. Pag tinanong ko ulit yun sa database 5 seconds from now, pareho pa rin naman yung sagot eh. Diba? Malamang pareho pa rin naman yung sagot eh. 30 seconds from now, 1 minute from now, it really depends on your system. Pero the thing is, pag nagpadala ako sa database ng query and it doesn't change, sayang yung thinking power na ginagamit ng database. Kung every time na pinapadalan mo siya ng query, the thing, iniisip niya uli yung sagot. Kino-compute niya uli yung sagot. Right? So the idea is you use a cache in front of the database. Para pag query natin yung database, tapos nagbigay siya ng sagot, tatandaan na ng cache yung sagot. Para pag tinanong mo uli yung database with the exact same question, hindi na aabot sa database. So sabihin na lang ng cache, tinanong mo na yan kanina, ito yung sagot. Malamang hindi pa nagbabago yan. So gagaan yung usage ng database mo. You can use caching in a lot of different places in most applications. Hindi lang sa harap ng database. Two very common options for that is this. Yung one is yung object cache, maybe using something like a Redis, right? Or two, a CDN. So something that caches HTTP requests even closer to your users. So maliban sa nagki-cache siya, pinapalapit niya sa mga users mo yung response. So that even makes your web page feel faster, for example. So whatever application system you use, you probably want to take a look at ano yung mga pwede mong gamitin caching solutions. Like sa mga lugar in my architecture can I take advantage of a cache? Right? Isang bagay na nagtatanda na ng result, ng responses, ng mga sagot ng mga ginawa ko ng computation, for example. Right? Saan sa mga lugar ko na may application pwede kong gawin yan? For a WordPress site, there's pretty much two places you can put it very commonly. One is yung object cache na yan, pinakita ko sa inyo. And yung second is yung CDN. Nandiyan din sa diagram. A CDN would be something like CloudFront, for example. Let me just show you. I think pinapatakbo ko pa yung wait. Hindi na pala. So let me just show you. A Redis cache naman. Oops, sorry. So ang ginawa ko naman dito, hindi ko ito ilo-load test, pero ginawa ko naman dito, meron ako yung same thing, core, database, yung load balancer ko sa harap, pero meron din akong Redis na cache na ginawa. So what that looks like on a site, ito yung WordPress site na yan, na tumatakbo ngayon, right? Pakita ko lang sa inyo yung how you probably will want to use something like that. For a WordPress, if you want to use Redis, there's a very this is the plugin I use. So Redis object cache. So i-enable mo lang yan, ituturo mo lang sa kanya nasan yung Redis mo, then it will automatically make use of caching. So ang ginagawa niya is anytime, well, not really anytime, pero when your WordPress parang calculates something very significant, like kumari, ano yung itsura ng page, ano yung HTML ng particular page na to na pinuntahan ko. Like for example, if I go to this page right here, kinalculate ni WordPress yung buong page na yan. So what this plugin will be, pag-calculate ni WordPress ng page, yung HTML markup, and so on and so forth, tatandaan niya yung result. So the next time somebody goes to this page, to this URL, doesn't even have to be the same user, somewhere else in the world, for example, hindi na i-calculate ng WordPress. Kukunin na lang niya sa cache. Ay, kinalculate ko na yung page niyan kanina kunin ko na lang. Para hindi sayang yung computation. Para mas magaan doon sa computer. Right? Doon sa host. So that's what it does. That's what a cache does. You can pretty much get the same effect with something like a CDN. So kung gumamit ka ng Amazon CloudFront, for example, ganoon din yan. Very, very similar. Not exactly the same, pero very, very similar. So you get the same effect. Tinatandaan nila yung sagot na mga ginagawa nyo. Right? So just a bit of a recap. Not on any software system, not just WordPress. Let me just make that highlight, right? On any application system, these are 5 things you can take note of when you evaluate ano ang pwede mong gawin to improve my deployment or my architecture or my system design, right? Number 1, you want to separate your logical components as much as you can. Parang kumbaga single responsibility pieces, decoupled pieces, as small as possible as you can, as separately as possible as you can, right? 2, you will want to balance incoming load as best as you can. This is sa 5 yan, I'd say that's the easiest to do. Making sure na you balance where and when you can balance in the system. Sa isang WordPress site, it's pretty easy kasi most of the balancing you need to do will just be incoming requests, incoming page loads, for example. Yun lang naman yung kailangan mo generally na i-balance. Pero you will want to look out for places you can do that. Kasi once you are able to balance that, maybe using a load balancer or a reverse proxy, right? When you do that, when you do number 2, it enables you to do number 3, which is auto-scale your resources. Oras na nagagawa mo na yung load balancing, you can do yung important thing with 3, which is automatically scaling. Automatically, gano'ng karaming servers na kailangan ko, gano'ng karaming hosts, gano'ng karaming containers, gano'ng kalaking storage, gano'ng karaming Lambda functions. All of that, generally, you don't have to think of it. If you can auto-scale, kuha naman yun. Right? And normally, you need number 2 to do number 3. So auto-scale what you can. It will save you money. It will save you a lot of headache in the long run. Kasi you don't have to do calculations about how many servers, whatever. Right? You will want to consider anong mga storage options ang best for you. For something like WordPress, you just need elastic shared storage. That can be Amazon EFS, for example. Pwede ding Amazon S3, right? If you configure your WordPress correctly. Pero point being, on any WordPress system, on any software system, you will want to use the best storage option available to you. Ideally elastic, ideally shared. Then lastly, look for opportunities to use caching. So instead of having your system compute something over and over and over and over, you will want to look for places where you can cache that. Whether that, pwedeng i-cache mo in code, right? Memoization, like yung tawag doon, you can memoify function results. You can keep responses. You can keep database queries. All of those things. So maraming mga lugar to do that. Look for those opportunities where you can cache stuff like that. Now, I haven't really talked about anything AWS, but if you're interested, this is one possible option of doing what I just showed you on AWS. Hindi siya the only option. Like for example, I said EC2 dito when I was showing you containers dito, right? So you can use different services. This is not the end all be all kind of option for it. right? You can mix and match, for example. Like, for example, if you want to use a different service instead of CloudFront, if you want to use a different database instead of RDS, bakit hindi, right? So you can kind of mix and match. I've even seen, I think I have it here, I've even seen someone run WordPress on Lambda, right? On a serverless function. So for example, this site here, this is WordPress running on a Lambda function, right? It's not going to be efficient, but it's completely serverless, right? And if it works for them, for their use case, bakit hindi, right? So like I said, one possible option, ito. You can mix and match, you can change things around as best as you can. So where else can you learn about this? Definitely hindi ko mapapakita sa inyo everything in just an hour or 45 minutes. How long have I been talking? All right. So if you want to know more, like I said, drop by the official WordPress site. It's at wordpress.org. If you want to run your own WordPress site at the official WordPress site, then it's at wordpress.com, right? So if you want to take a look at how to run WordPress, it's wordpress.org. And then that's a really good place to start. We have a site on AWS called AWS Solutions, which is parang a curated collection of different software systems that have been designed and architected by AWS Solutions architects and partners. So, nung pumunta ako sa AWS Solutions site kahapon, there were 3 examples of WordPress, for example, right? So, like I said, there's not just one option. So maraming mga ways. It's a nice way to kind of take a look at how AWS Solutions architects would design systems and why, right? And if you want to, you can also deploy these on your own account if you want to see them in action. We also have the Architecture Center sa AWS. So you can take a look at that and kind of look at different guidelines we take a look at when we look at different systems and how we recommend ano-ano yung mga siguro mga best practices, what can you change to improve things, kind of those things, right? So mga good examples across different technologies and across different industry verticals. So you may want to take a look at that as well. Ngayon, finally, yung pinakita ko sa inyong code, I made it available on this GitHub link. So if you want to try it out, and you have Docker installed on your machine, all of the stacks I ran kanina are here. The load test manifest I also was running is also here. Tapos meron din ako nilagay dyan na parang file which contains sample content for your WordPress para pwede mong i-test yung WordPress mo if you want. Like lalagay mo siya ng sandamakmak na example content para may laman siya when you test that if you want to do that, right? So I put it here. So if you want to run that, give that a go. It's just on that GitHub link. And thank you for your time. As always, I always enjoy talking. So if you want to reach out, ito yung contact ko. You can connect with me on my GitHub or even on my LinkedIn. Or if you prefer to be a bit Discordy and hipsty, and then ako madalas sa Discord server ng Tambayan 404. So feel free to join us there and chat. Thank you. If anybody has any questions, I'd be willing to take them on.
There. Awesome. Maraming salamat, Carding. So, ayos yun sa Tambayan 404.
Yeah.
Nakakamilig ko lang dati na. Akala ko joke eh. So,
come join.
Yeah, okay. So yun, so if you have questions for Carding, feel free to use the chat box or I can actually ask you to unmute yourselves there. Okay. Ako muna, may tanong ako.
Yes.
When it comes to cost, paano kayo prepare yung sarili ko when I run a WordPress site and it will be on AWS? Paano, kasi right now, most of the people, especially me, when I create websites, I use a dedicated server for it.
Yeah.
So, paano yung magiging comparison ng cost kung i-run ko siya sa AWS?
Good. I think that's a very important question then, right? So like I said, if you want to start yung light sale, it's a very cost-friendly way to get started kasi you get pretty much just a fixed monthly cost there. no matter how heavy or light you use your WordPress site there, right? So if you do it via light sale, you get a fixed monthly cost, which is really nice. It's comfortable for people that are just getting started. Once you dive into yung mga pinapakita ko kanina, like parang, oy, paramihin natin yung servers natin, o try natin i-architecture design, then the questions of cost become much more important kasi your different decisions have a direct impact na eh. Mas maraming servers, syempre, mas mahal, right? The nice thing about costing sa AWS is it's generally proportional. So for example, ang parati ko sinasabi is that, for example, meron akong makina with 2 CPU and 4 gigabytes of RAM, right? Like, let me try to write here. Sabihin ko, meron akong 2 CPU and 2 gigabytes of RAM, right? Na itong machine. If I, ano ba nangyari sa ano ko? So 2C, 2 gigabytes. If I make it instead na 2 piraso ng tig 1 CPU and 1 gigabyte, yung presyo nila is the same for the same service. So for an EC2, for example, if I have a machine na 2 CPU, 2 gigabytes, and then I do it like 2 piraso na lang, na tig 1 CPU, 1 gigabyte, the price is going to be the same. So this is nice. Kasi for example, nung pinakita ko kanina yung initial na load test, di ba nakita nyo, biglang mabilis lumaki yung WordPress, pero yung database, mabagal lang. So that tells you na pwede mong liitan generally yung relatively, ano ba yung English ko? Pwede mong liitan relatively yung machine ng DB compared na sa WordPress. Right? So ibig sabihin, yung makina natin kanina, we can split that into the WordPress and the database. At WordPress and the database, isang piraso sila. Pero yung database din, to save on cost, dahil nakita natin na mahina naman yung gamit niya ng CPU and memory, di ba? Pwede pa natin, malamang, pailiitin pa natin. Tapos yung WordPress, since dumadami naman siya at umuonte based sa auto-scaling, edi try natin gumamit ng mas maliit pang makina para sa WordPress. Dumadami naman siya, di ba? So okay lang yan. So yun yung mga klase ng mga concerns na you will want to consider then. That's also the reason why I say na pag nag-auto-scale ka, you generally save on costs in the long run. Kasi every time na pinapaliwanag ko na pag nag-auto-scale ka, automatically dumadami yung computers, di ba? Karamihan ng mga pinapaliwanagan ko na for the first time, ang una na lang naiisip, dumadami. That means more cost. Ibig sabihin, I have more computers, di ba? Pero that's true. Pero you also have to remember 2 things. One is, auto-scaling also means na automatically umuunti sila. When your system is not being used, bumabawas yung binabayaran mo kasi automatically nababawasan yung resources mo eh. And 2, because you auto-scale, because dumadami ka, automatically, without intervention from you, it's much safer to run your servers smaller. So in this yung traditional way of thinking of it, parang, kailangan ko manigurado na my WordPress is always going to be running. So kailangan parati na ako may malaking machine. Diba? Kasi I don't want it to fail. I don't want it to crash. I want it to be able to be running all the time. Hindi na ganun yung thinking ngayon. Because you can auto-scale, automatically recover from disasters. Pwede mong paliitin yun as small as you can, especially if you're doing containers. Pwedeng like 1/2 of a CPU lang yung WordPress server mo. 1/2 of a gigabyte. Kasi when your WordPress site is not being used, ganun lang talaga karami kailangan niya. Pag you need more, edi auto-scale lang siya marami. Right? That's why I say auto-scaling saves you cost. And a lot of other different concerns like that. And I'm sure we'll run out of time if I talk about that. Pero hopefully that was sufficient.
Cool. Actually, yung sa what do you call this? Sa auto-scaling, dami ako natutunan eh. This is something that I want to try myself. Siguro dito sa Christmas break, marami akong oras. So,
wow.
Integrate ako ng ng ilang website to AWS. Kasi pagka nagkakausap kami ng mga kaibigan ko na running WordPress, ang concern namin and fear namin is baka biglang lumobo yung cost eh. Yun ang palagi naming concern. So at least now, medyo ako nalumanagan ako doon sa part na yun.
Ganda siya.
Cool. Guys, sinong may tanong para kay Carding? Feel free to unmute yourselves or use the chat box. Okay. So kayong load balancing, that is one awesome. Eto, may tanong si Mark Ivan sa Facebook. Will WordPress replace web developers?
I really don't think so. WordPress is a piece of software that solves a very specific problem. WordPress is very, very good when it comes to running a site that manages content. So, ang pinaka-classic example nun would be a blog. Diba? If you write a blog, then you're managing content. Diba? And WordPress does that very, very well. Pero it's not the only thing that web developers build, if you think about it. Diba? It makes it easier to build a website na focuses on managing different kinds of content. Pero it's not going to replace web development altogether kasi that's not the only thing we do as web developers. Right?
Cool. Awesome. So yun. So Mark Ivan, don't you worry. I've been using WordPress since the beginning, yung wala pang 1.0 na version. So
wow.
Nandito pa rin tayo. So yeah.
Cool. As a web developer myself, I feel very secure about it. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, okay, cool. Sino pang may katanungan para kay Carding? Okay, here sa chat box natin. Can you share where and when your IT career started after you graduated in college? And what advice can you give for those who want to get a job in AWS?
Wow. Mauubusan tayo ng oras pag gawin natin yung buo. Pero I actually graduated with a business degree. So I wasn't an IT person. I wasn't a comp-sci person. I graduated with a business degree. Pero I knew I wanted to program. So I wanted to be in the IT space. So right after I graduated, ang una kong trabaho was actually something businessy. So, pero on the side, nagpo-program ako, gumagawa ako ng sidelines. A huge part of that was WordPress, right? Sometime there, I decided na I really need to, kung gusto kong mag-program, gusto kong mag-IT, gusto kong mag-build. So, kung magalundagin mo, baby, pumunta ako sa ibang kumpanya, ay pinilit ko talaga na mag-apply as a programmer. Sinerte naman ako, and that's kind of where it started. I started out as a firmware dev. So, gumagawa kami ng parang software sa mga pira-piraso ng dito. Kung itong mga ginagawa kong ganito, this is yung galing sa firmware background. Tapos, it just kind of rolled from there. Recommendations, like tip, if you want to get into AWS, one of the things we really make a big point of, at least in AWS, is the continuous capacity to learn, right? Pero at the same time, we also recognize that you don't know everything. You cannot know everything. So one of the very, very big things we make a huge point of is you have to be very passionate about learning new things, but you also have to be very quick to admit when you don't know something, kasi that's where learning starts. So I think that's fundamentally core as a builder, especially in the IT space. As a technologist, na next week yung ginagamit mong software malamang nagbago na naman, di ba? So, but we're continuously learning. So I think that's a very good step to take. Like, make sure that you have a very good foundation with that.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. Sino pa may tanong? Oh, there. Okay, may pumasok. Sir, of all the 5 tips that you shared, which of these are more important? Our company website is currently running in AWS Light Sale.
Oh, very, very, very difficult question, I'd say. I'd say all of them are very important. I can't say which one is most important, but I can tell you that I see number one most often. Yung make sure na you're working with make sure you're working with logical separation. Kasi you don't just see that in architecture. You see that in everywhere. Everywhere. Like when you're programming code, gaano kalalaki yung functions mo? Gaano kalalaki yung files mo? When you're committing sa Git, for example, gaano kalalaki yung commits mo? How many files did you change? Right? Are you repeating yourself? Are you decoupling things, making sure na do one thing and one thing only. Mga ganun mga bagay, right? You see that everywhere. So I'd say na I wouldn't call it the most important, pero I definitely the most common. I think number one.
Cool. Siguro this is our last question for tonight. May nag-DM is it true that we can skip programming in AWS?
Depends on the job. Definitely, right? So when you're working on AWS, hindi naman lahat solutions architect, hindi naman lahat pro serve, for example. Marami mga different roles in AWS, and not all of them code, for example. Even in the solutions architect space, it's very good. It's a very good, kumbaga, foundation if you know how to code. Pero it's not a requirement to be a solutions architect, for example. Kasi as a solutions architect, and this I say solutions architect because this is something that most people ask for, yung solutions architect na responsibility and role, diba? As a solutions architect, what you're mostly tasked with is being able to recommend and being able to give suggestions and analyze, like what we just did, diba? Hindi parate na it's something code that you're doing that in. Pwedeng technical field, pwedeng something like, for example, DevOps, for example. Well, actually, DevOps has code din. For example, yung IoT space. Not everybody creates firmware, pero yung IoT space mismo has a lot of inner workings there that doesn't need you to code. For example, machine learning then. A lot of machine learning doesn't, well, I wouldn't say a lot, pero a significant portion of it doesn't need you to code, right? Mga ganun mga bagay. So I'd say it really depends on what you're aspiring to be. When I was a solutions architect, I was one of the solutions architect that actually can code. So ang specialization ko was more towards developers, experience, and so on and so forth. Pero you don't have to be able to code. It's a good foundation though.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. So with that, maraming salamat, Carding, sa ulitin. Advance Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Advance Merry Christmas to them.
Yep, siguro the next time that we'll meet will be in 2023. And hopefully I promise myself in a few weeks time mag-e-exam na talaga ako.
Oh, good for you.
Okay, so
sorry, one last thing. Can I just say one last thing?
Go.
I just remembered na next week na yung reInvent. If you don't know, AWS reInvent is the biggest AWS conference every year. So reInvent this year is going to be you can attend reInvent virtually for free. So if you're interested to see what's new and what's up and coming, what we've been working on sa AWS in the past year or so, make sure you attend or at least visit some of the sessions on the AWS reInvent site. Something like that.
Yep, marami kayo matutunan, promise. I've been to reInvent since 2019 and next week I'll be there. I'll be attending in person.
Enjoy your time there.
Yep, salamat. Maraming salamat, Carding, sa ulitin.
Anytime.
Okay. So this session will not be will not happen without our friends from Education PH. So to tell us more about what they do and other stuff. Pat, nasan ka, Pat? Are you there, Pat? Hello, Pat. Ay, okay. Sorry. Hi, okay. I'm not sure. Dali, give me a second. Okay, sige. Sige, go ahead, Pat. The floor is yours.
I am Acha Abe, the Technical Community Manager of Education.ph, and I'm very excited that you are here with us today to learn more about technologies with AWS. I'm going to give you an introduction about Education.ph and AWS Siklab Pilipinas. Education.ph is the largest edtech platform in the Philippines, empowering millions of Gen Z students aged 13 to 24 to make self-aware education decisions that lead to a fulfilling career and life. Education.ph has worked with hundreds of partners, schools, corporations, and foundations to enable them to reach and engage with its student community along with the journey from education to career. Along with that, we have AWS, or Amazon Web Services Siglab Pilipinas, a community to uplift fellow developers and professionals in the Philippines with industry leaders all over the world sharing their expertise in the field. And at present, we have over 30 community partners always preparing events for you for free. And we look forward to share more opportunities and knowledge in technology with you. AWS Siklab Pilipinas holds Community Ignite series, our internal event every Thursday via Zoom, broadcasted live on our Facebook page from 6 to 7 p.m. All of our events are posted in our Facebook event page. You can check us at AWS Siklab Pilipinas on all of our socials on TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And we're also on Eventbrite. Make sure to join our community at AWS Siklab Pilipinas to stay updated with our future events and also get a chance to win prizes such as AWS credits and swags from us. Enjoy the event today and we look forward to seeing you again at our events. It's always day one at AWS Siklab Pilipinas.
There. Maraming salamat, Pat. And thank you to our friends at AWS Siklab Pilipinas and Education.ph. Would you like to add anything, Pat?
I thank you for feedback.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So for this event, if you guys would like to receive a feedback form, the certificate, kindly answer this feedback form. Kindly make sure to answer this one because failure to do so means forfeiture of your free certificate. So kindly give us around 5 to 7 business days to have your certificate sent via email. Thank you.
Awesome. There. Maraming salamat, Pat. Okay. So with that, so the link is here. We'll also follow it up with you via email. Do sa mga attendees, we'll be sending you all the necessary links that we have. Okay, and it's also in the chat box. So maraming salamat for attending tonight. Thank you to Carding, thank you to Pat and our friends at AWS Philippines, AWS Siklab Pilipinas, and to Education.ph. So this is Bob Reyes of the Mozilla Philippines community. Maraming salamat. Happy weekend and ingat kayong lahat. Bye-bye.